Good morning. It's good to see everyone here, and we're looking forward to a good class. Good to see Daryl and Melissa back with us today, and we've got some that are missing, but we've got others that we are grateful to have, and we've got some visitors that live in New Braunfels, and good to have them with us today. And looks like we've got another visitor coming in, so that's good. But we're grateful for the presence of each. Again, be sure to pick up your bulletin and check those that we've got listed there that's on our ill list. I intended, and maybe somebody can update me, I intended to call Ron and ask him about his boy. Does anybody know what the results were as far as his surgery was concerned? That was Mike Cone. Evidently, everybody's in the dark with me, but that was Friday, so maybe we can get some information before service time. But anyway, those others that we have listed there, but be sure to keep them in your prayers, and let's continue to be whatever service we can to them. Doug's got our class, and we'll turn it over to him in just a moment, but let's have a word of prayer before we begin. Lord God, we're grateful and thankful, Father, for this time to be able to open your word and to be able to listen to you as we study that word. We're grateful, Father, for the Old Testament. We're grateful for the biblical events that are recorded there through inspiration. We're grateful for the lessons that we can learn. Just continue to be with us all. Open our hearts and our minds that we might be receptive to your truth this morning. Be with Doug as he directs our thoughts. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. Okay, Doug.
Good morning. We are in the 24th chapter of Samuel, 1 Samuel 24. And we had just left the scene last week where Saul went into the cave, and David was in the cave, and David saw Saul come in, and all the men with David wanted him to go ahead. Man, the Lord delivered him. Let's go. The Lord put him right there in front of you, David. It's your chance to take care of Saul just like you should. And, of course, David didn't think that way. David's sitting there going, no, that's the Lord's anointed. I don't do that. Okay, the Lord will take care of Saul when it's time for the Lord to take care of Saul, not me. So David put that off, but David did let Saul know, hey, I could have got you. Okay, I mean, that's what he did. Because I could have got you. He cut off a piece of his robe, and then after Saul left the cave and went out there a little ways, David said, hey, Saul, I could have got you. I have a piece of your robe here. I don't know why you keep pursuing me, but you need to stop because I didn't do anything wrong. Okay? And Saul said he would, but as we know, he didn't. Okay, he keeps coming. So that's where we left off. We had read the first paragraph, and we read the first paragraph. And we're right in there somewhere where David had cut his robe off, and so we were going to pick up around verse 16. Okay, pick up around verse 16, and I'll read that right quick, and we'll talk about that little bit right there, and then we'll move on. Okay. As soon as David had finished speaking these words to Saul, Saul said, "Is that your voice, my son David?" And Saul lifted up his voice and wept, and he said to David, "You are more righteous than I, for you have repaid me good, whereas I have repaid you evil. And you have declared this day how you have dealt well with me, in that you did not kill me when the Lord put me into your hands. For if a man finds his enemy, will he let him go away safe? So may the Lord reward you with good for what you have done to me this day. And now, behold, I know that you shall surely be king, and that the kingdom of Israel shall be established in your hand. Swear to me, therefore, by the Lord, that you will not cut off my offspring from me, and that you will not destroy my name out of my father's house." And David swore this to Saul, and then Saul went home, but David and his men went up to the stronghold. So David believed him, right? No, went back into hiding. Because Saul had already said, I'm sorry before, and it didn't matter. Saying, I'm sorry again, I messed up, David, you're more righteous than me. I'm after you, trying to kill you, and all you're wanting to do is say, hey, I didn't do anything wrong, leave me alone. But as we know, as we've all read this story many times, I'm sure, Saul's not going to leave him alone. He's going to keep coming after him, so it's not a good deal. He wept. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, it might have been. He might have.
Got some kind of tenderness.
Right, it's still got some in him, like he was years ago. Yeah, got some of that in him. In verse 19 we read, it said, will he send his enemies along in a good way? And that's what Saul said. When we read verse 19 there, it said, for if a man finds his enemy, will he let him go away safe? How many times does a man let his enemy go safe, especially back in this time? Not very common, right? So to allow Saul to just walk away, not common. Okay, so I'm wondering also, is the Lord testing David? David, are you as good as I think you are? I mean, how many times does David have a chance to go and take care of some business here that he thinks probably ought to be taken care of by somebody, and David refuses to do it? To me, it's all along the way he's preparing David. He's checking him out. He's testing him. Is David really got the heart that I think he has? Is he really good? Is he going to deny the chance to kill Saul a few times here as I give him over to him? To me, I think that's going on. I don't know that, but to me, it seems like it. Yes, sir. Right. Yes, I agree. And so to me, that's just, okay, Dave, let's show everybody that you're what I think you are. And he's doing that. David's passing these tests. To me, that's what it is tests, and David's passing them. He's doing right every single turn. Now, so far, as we all know, David doesn't do right every single turn, but right now he is. He's doing the right thing a lot of times. And we're going to come up in a chapter or so where David's kind of not thinking right. Okay, that's coming. But right now, David, at every turn, is trying to do right. Okay, so he's okay there. Saul states it again. I know you're going to be the guy one day. Well, if you know he's going to be the guy one day, why do you keep pursuing him? Let it be. Just go ahead and rule. Let David help you rule, and let's move on. Not happening, is it? Not going to happen. Okay? What do leaders like to do? They like to lead. They like to be in charge. They want to be the guy that has all the say. Saul doesn't have all the say as long as David's around, because David's going to be the next king, and he knows that. So he's going to try and get rid of him. But he can't. There's no way he can. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I want it stopped so my son could be the king. Yeah. I want it stopped. Yes. Yes. All of that. Oh. Oh. And Saul had him say an oath, right? Who's going to be bound by that oath? Is Saul going to be bound by that oath? No, he's the king. He doesn't get bound by any oath, right? But he knew David would. He knew if he made a deal with David, David would stick to it. And so right now he's feeling pretty good because David said he wouldn't, and he believes David because David does what he says he's going to do. So he believes David, so he's thinking his family's going to be fine later. And they would have been, if the Philistines hadn't wiped out most of them, they would have been okay. And the ones that didn't get wiped out, David did take care of, kind of, sort of. His wife he didn't, but the others he kind of took care of. You know, his wife, I don't know if you call that putting them up in a dungeon, taking care of them. Okay, I'm not real sure. I don't think that's taking care of somebody. Remember what he does to his wife, Michael? Puts her away to where she's never around anybody anymore. She's just kind of in her own little place. So that's, that's not real good, but he didn't destroy her because of Saul or anything. And ultimately, David's hoping that Saul would just say, okay, I'm done. You're fine. Let's go on. Did Saul say that? No. He just said, you're more righteous than me. I'm going to leave. Okay? I'm going to leave for now, but then we know he's going to come back later. Okay, so that's chapter 24. We're doing okay with it? Any issues in there? Anybody? Oh, okay. Oh, let's go into 25 then. And this is where David has an opportunity to mess up. It's just like all of us. He gets hot under the collar a little bit, and a guy rubbed him wrong, and he's fixing to be mad about it, and he's thinking he can just go fix it right quick his own way, and he gets told no, and it's a pretty good deal. Could I get somebody to read the first paragraph, which is 1 through 8?
Samuel died, all Israel was buried in his house. And David rose and went down to the wilderness. There was a man named business was home. The man was very sick. He had 3,000 sheep and 1,000 goats. Hearing the sheep talk. And the name of the man was Nabal, his wife, and the name of his wife, Abigail. The woman was a servant of Judah. The man was hard, badly behaved, as was a Kenite. David heard in the wilderness that Nabal was serious. So David sent 10 young men. David said to the young men, go up the farm, go to the well, take Nabal, greet him in my name. And thus you shall greet him. Peace be to your house. And peace be to all that you have. I hear that you have feared. Now your shepherd, now said, look up. We did this no harm. They messed nothing all the time. And your young men, they will fail. Therefore let my young men find favor in your eyes. We come on the feast day. Please give whatever you have for purpose and to your son.
Okay. So in this area that David and them are hiding out in, there's this group that's got all their livestock out there, their sheep, their goats, all that stuff. And David men had kind of just been protecting the people in that area. As they're running from Saul, they're also protecting people because, David's a good man, and he's kind of converting all of his 600 other guys to being better people. There's still some in there, they're a little riffraff type, but they're coming around. They're getting to be better people from David because they're learning from David. Okay? And they took care of these shepherds. Okay? They took care of them, all the men of Nabal, all his men. They were taking care of them. They were watching out for them. They were making sure nobody was stealing their animals and all that stuff. They were always doing good for them. They're saying, okay, they're fixing to have this big party and all that stuff. See if they'll give us some food, because there's not a lot of food down in this area. There's not a lot of wild game and all that kind of stuff down there. So they're in need of food. Also, not a lot of people in this area. So they're in need of food. Okay, so David's sending them and saying, if you can spare some, that'd be great if you'd let us, because we've kind of been helping you a little bit. And that's what David is saying to these young men that are going to go talk to Nabal. And before that, though, we found out Samuel died. And the best I could find was Samuel lived approximately 98 years. I mentioned that the other day, but that's the best I could find. I don't know if it's exactly 98. Your reference might say 102. Somebody else's might say 90. I don't know, but approximately 98 years is in there. And buried there in Ramah somewhere, probably in a tomb. It says in his house, but I don't think they would bury him in his house. So I'm assuming that meant probably in his tomb there in the place of Ramah. And David's not there. David's down in the hideout place. Okay, David can't even be at Samuel's funeral here, because if David shows up at Samuel's funeral, it's not going to be very good for him, most likely. Now, the word Nabal means foolish or villainous. Okay, so he kind of fits his name. Okay, he's also a rich man. He owns a lot. So keep that in mind later, that he has a lot of property. Keep that in mind. Okay? Abigail, his wife, that means the exaltation of my father. Okay, so then it said something about Calebite. And a Calebite, Caleb means dog. So a Calebite is a person who has kind of a dog mentality. Well, I don't know that that always fits for everybody named Caleb. There's some good Calebs in the Bible. I mean, there's some good Calebs that I run into every once in a while, although you don't see many Calebs anymore. When I was young, there was a lot of Calebs. Now, when you go to school and I see a lot of kids, there's not hardly any Calebs anymore. So it used to be a big name. And I didn't ever think all of them were kind of dog and attitude and all of that. They seemed like pretty good people. And some of the Calebs we know in the Bible are pretty good people. So I don't think that means everybody, but it does fit the book. Okay? And David's just asking, hey, we've been helping. I know you probably don't know this, but we've been helping. Ask your men. We've been helping. Been taking care of them. If you could spare some food, we could sure use it. And we need some. Okay, we're kind of running out of food, and we're pretty hungry here. And the next paragraph, we're going to read how, no. Okay, they're not going to be real excited, or he's not going to be real excited about helping anybody here. So that's coming up. So if somebody would they read the next couple paragraphs, like from verse 9 through verse 17, and we'll talk about that. She married a good guy, didn't she? Even the young men who worked for him, when they talk to his wife, say he's not a very good guy. That's pretty rough. One of your workers saying, man, you're not a very good guy. That's probably not good back then, but you're not a very good guy, but you better do something. Okay, so is David fixing to make a bad decision here? What did he tell all his men to do? Yeah, let's go. Time to go. Get on your mule and let's ride, because we're going to go. We're going to go wipe out some people. And it goes a little further. David's going to say a few more things here in a little bit, but you don't just go kill somebody because they won't share their food with you. Okay, that's fixing to be a bad deal. So David's kind of letting it get to him a little bit, and he doesn't need to. He's just a little mad, a little upset. He has spent time prepping all of this, though. What has his men been doing for several months now? Been watching the shepherds, taking care of them, not letting anybody bother them. They're not losing any of their animals. They're in good shape. They're taking care of all of it. They're keeping people away from them. So it's a good deal. And David's thinking he wasted all his time here. He's thinking that. But Nabal said no pretty harshly, right? According to what we read. Said, no. Okay. Well, that's kind of rough. So let's see what happened right after that, because one of the men went to the wife, right, and said, hey, you might want to consider doing something. Okay, and that's where we left off right there on that last couple of verses, 16 and 17. So we're fixing to read what she considered to do and how it's going to help a little bit here. So if somebody'd read 18 through 22, we'll talk about it right quick. Okay, so he's fixing to go wipe them all out, right? He is fixing to go. Do all of them deserve to be wiped out? No. Just because Nabal's a bad guy? No. But David's fixing to mess up here, so that's not good. But notice what Abigail did. She loaded up a lot of stuff, right? 200 loaves of, and it would have been flatbread, because that's pretty much what they had a lot of times back then. The 200 loaves of flatbread, wine for drinking, because, a lot of times the water's not real good in some areas. 5 sheep already prepared to eat, which I'm sitting there going, 600 men and 5 sheep. What do you think? They would have a snack. So there's a lot of bread, so they're fixing to eat a lot of bread and a little bit of meat. That's what it sounded like. About 600 men. Now the raisins are dried in the sun, so they're preserved, so they'll last a little bit. And the cake of figs are like preserved, so they'll last a little bit. And so she's kind of got it set for right now. The bread will last a little bit too. It'll last a few days, like it does at our place. It's in a bag, but back then it wasn't in a bag, right? You leave it out on the counter, what's bread do? Gets hard. So, it's a few days. It's edible after a few days. It just gets kind of hard, okay? Kind of like eating bread in Europe. God, I hated eating bread in Europe. Hey, it was always hard. It's like they let it sit out for 3 days, okay? I don't know if y'all have done that, but when I went over there years ago, it was always hard bread. And, just dig it out from the inside where it was still a little bit fresh and soft. But she's trying to take care of things. She knows her husband, right? Apparently. She's got to have known her husband in the way he is. So I'm going to go take care of this. I know what's going on. I'm going to try and fix this. Took a bunch of stuff. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Probably so. Knew she was a little brighter than her husband. And what you said's coming. True. Yeah, her husband would have. That's true. A lot of meat goes disappearing. He would have noticed, wouldn't he? Yeah. So that's true too. And as we will read later, it's not going to be an issue for too much longer. Okay. And some of y'all already know the story, but it won't be an issue too much longer. And the last verse we read, David swore he's going to kill every single male, and when are they going to do it? At night, because when they're loading up and even they're fixing to go, it's going to be a nighttime slaughter like it usually is. You watch all the shows, they haven't changed. When's all the slaughters happen? At night. Okay, so they're going in at night. Who gets killed at night? Everybody. Okay, man, woman, child, everybody ends up getting wiped out because you never know at night back then. So it's fixed to be bad. Yeah. Yep. And it's a good thing Abigail's here. It is a good thing because David's about to mess up. He's not going to be like he ought to be. Because there's some good people here. All of these guys can't be bad people. There's no way. They're just working. They're working for a man who's not real smart sometimes, I guess, who's very frugal with his stuff, doesn't want to share nothing. But his wife sounds like she figured it out a long time ago. Okay, and I don't know why she would be married to him other than it was different back then than it is today. She may have had to. You never know back then. But she's a little bit brighter than him at least, so she's going to fix things. And that's what we're fixing to read about is what she does and what she says to fix it all. Okay, so if somebody read a little bit more for us, like verses 23 through 35 is the next paragraph that we need to read. I got one big question. How does Abigail know that he's going to be the king? How does Abigail know that? That's what we just read, right? How does she know that? I have no answer. And she knows that. How does she know that? I mean, it doesn't say, I couldn't find anything on how she knew that. And I just wondered if maybe one of you wise people in here that a lot wiser than I am might know. Studied it, something? Yes, she probably had some groups out and around, right? She had a servant come to her and say, hey, your husband's messing up. So maybe the same type people were out helping, gathering intel, right? I don't know. It just caught me off guard that she knew that David was going to be king, and she knew that Saul was after him. She knew all that. It's just amazing to me. True. Right. 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 But remember, several chapters ago, they didn't tell nobody. Remember, they took Jesse and his family aside, and they did it all over here in private. They didn't tell nobody. Yeah.
So maybe they had something a little bit for me.
It did. She knew, didn't she? Yeah. Okay. Uh-huh. Yeah. Right.
He sees it as a timely thing that perhaps God himself would have picked for him, but perhaps it would stay with him.
Yes.
Certainly seems.
Yes. Right. Yeah, he recognizes that. Right. Yeah. Yes. Yes, and I agree totally with you. But I was just, yes, certainly. Yep. Yep, she's saving her husband, which how many of y'all talk that bad about your husband out to somebody? I mean, when the gals are gathered up, I'm sure you probably run them down a little bit, but just out in public, I mean, I'm sitting in the coaching office and somebody, I'm going to call my wife, make sure she has supper ready. I go, yeah, you do that. You go ahead and call, because you ain't going to say nothing to your wife. You're just mouthing like you're somebody in this coaching office. Well, that's how we all are a little bit. Yeah, I can talk big when I'm not around my wife, but I don't open my mouth when I'm around her. Okay? Because I know who runs the house. I'm not stupid. And I like sleeping in my bed, not the couch, not outside. My bed's a little better than those other choices. But she just goes out and says, my husband's not a real good dude, out in public. I mean, most of us, even if our husband wasn't a real good guy, we're probably not out in public saying, yeah, my husband's a really sorry guy. Probably not doing that. And she just went right out and said it, right? My husband's not a very good guy. Everybody, yeah, David found out, didn't he? Yeah, but all the guys around knew it. All the workers knew that. No, she. Right. She does. Yeah. She has a lot of insight. It's amazing. Right.
These things were always before you.
Right.
And so she was really brave in what she was doing. And this one way that she did
Yes, sir.
she was trusting God.
Yes. You're right. All that's good. But she certainly wasn't stingy, was she? She was not frugal with all her stuff. She was freely giving of all that she could round up right quick. She round up everything quickly. Mm-hmm. Some of that happened. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. May have found out from that. Sure might have. Okay. Let's see. Got that. Got that. And let's see. 6. Okay. That's all the notes I have for that section. I don't have any extra stuff in there. Has anybody got any more comments on that last little section we read? I would thank y'all for your comments. That was good stuff. That gave me some insight anyway. Okay. They did, didn't they? My Lord, your Lord, and our Lord. Yeah. Yeah. But a lot of times Lord is the husband, or Lord is the guy running the show. Okay. And then they talk about the Lord, our Father. Okay. So it was a little different, but you're right. There was a bunch of Lords read in there a while ago. Okay. And we'll finish this up. And we stopped at 35. And if somebody will just read the rest of the chapter, we'll finish up chapter 25. And we'll probably have enough time for all of that. So somebody will finish reading the chapter for us. Okay. So you think Nabal realized how bad it was, how close he was to dying? Said he stopped living. As soon as she told him, he stopped living. And going back a little further, why did he not know? Well, he was drunk. Right? Probably didn't even know his wife left. He'd been drinking wine and everything, celebrating, having a big party. He probably didn't even know she left. She didn't even talk to him when she came back because was he going to listen? No. I've been around drunk people before. They're horrible. They don't know what they're doing. They talk all over the place about anything and everything. They're ugly to be around. You just got to walk away from them. So he's probably like that. So she's walking away from him, saying, Then when she tells him what? His heart was like a stone. He just quit living. He stopped. Okay. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, and I saw that as one of the commentaries, and I read a couple others, and that's why I was saying he just stopped living, because that kind of covers all the possibilities. Yeah, it covers all of them, but he stopped living, and then a little bit later, he dies. Now, remember a while ago I said, remember, he's got a lot of property, right? Who gets all that property when he dies? Well, his children, right? But if he had children, wouldn't it have said probably? So who owns all this property now? Fixing to, isn't he? Yeah. Everybody understand what was going on here? David married Abigail, who inherited all that property because of her husband, who had all the property. And now David and his men and all of them, they're probably some more men now because all the guys that worked for Nabal, they're probably with David now. So he's got more help, and they've got a lot of things that they can use for food and that. They got all these sheep, all these goats, all that stuff. They've got property. I don't know if David ever used, I don't remember reading about David using this property later. I don't remember reading that. I don't know if any of y'all remember anything about it. I don't remember reading that down the road. So, but he's fixing to have property, right? And remember what Samuel said the kings were going to do? Told them a lot of things. They're going to take what you got. And one of the things they said was they were going to take what? Wives. All right. Well, David's not even the king yet, and he's already taken 2 wives. Okay. Now, I don't know if they wanted to definitely be with David, but they're with him. Okay. I don't know what the rule was back then. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what their rules were. Right. And again, I don't know why it's okay here. Why did Solomon have all of his wives? I mean, you know. Yes. Yes. Yeah. But again, I don't know all the rules back then. No. Yeah, today, I don't know about before.
There is some scriptures that deal with
Yes.
responsibility.
Yes.
You're gonna have
Before then.
Well, it
Yes.
makes sense that the more you have, less you can do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, you can't be a good husband. It's tough to be a good husband for a woman.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
I would think that monetarily, the responsibility.
Yeah. Right. And,
You're right.
yeah.
It is a right. What does she
Right. And when the older son marries and he dies without children, what's the next son supposed to do? Supposed to marry and provide. Right. But what if the next son was already married? Yeah. There's some rules in there too. Yeah. No, we're not. But there's a lot of stuff in there that, and it's different, but Samuel said they're going to take wives. Was David done taking wives? No. David's going to have more wives. Now, from the way it reads, because every time we're going to read about David's wives, Ahinoam is going to be the first one mentioned. And usually the first one mentioned is usually the first wife. So every time you read about David's wife, she's the first one. She is also the mother of Ammon. Everybody remember Ammon? Think about the story down the road. What did Ammon do? He messed up. Messed up bad. He raped his sister. Okay, and what did his sister's brother do to Ammon? Killed him. And all of that happened. And David had to deal with all of it. Okay? So David hadn't had these other kids from these other women, and not had all them issues. Should have had just one wife. Right? My opinion. I don't know. My opinion. And the one note I got on some things about what Saul did with Michal. Saul took Michal and gave her to another man, right? What does that mean to David? Means you're not part of the family anymore, right? You were my son-in-law, but your wife is not your wife anymore. So you're not my son-in-law anymore. You're just another dude now. You're just somebody else, okay? So he's kind of cut David out of the family. And I know it's by marriage, but it's still part of the family, right? I mean, I'm part of my wife's family. Even though I married into it, I'm still part of it. Same as each of y'all. You married into it, you're part of it. David got removed from it because his father-in-law took his wife and gave her to another man, which I guess the king could do whatever he wanted, which is what Samuel said. King's going to do what he wants. You're not going to be happy. They wanted a king anyway. That was one of them. Yeah, that was one of the problems he had. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, the other one was he was trying to take a census of all the people. Remember, he met when the Lord said, we're not worried about all the people. I mean, David has messed up. Yeah, and all of this, we're seeing all of this, but this is going to happen in the future. We're just kind of reading into it right now. But in the future, things are going to go wrong because of some of this. No. No, doesn't say a word. No. No. Right. And probably was. Yeah. Yeah. It looks like the next day, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
No, probably a few months, but because they had mourning period and all that stuff. But David did inherit a lot there when he married her, okay? Because she was childless, and it seems to be apparent she was. Then David inherited a lot of stuff from her because of her ex-husband who died. Very much. Yes. Right. 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 Yeah. Right. And I agree. We don't know all of it. Yeah. Yeah. This looks weird, don't it? Yeah. This looks weird. It's not. Right. Right. Supposed to. Yeah. And we go back to Genesis. What was it? Lamech had 2 wives. Lamech. No. That's after sin. That's after the garden. Yeah. Yes. Cain. Yeah. Yeah. Lamech had 2 wives. Yeah. So it happened hundreds of or thousands of years earlier. I don't know what the timeline is exactly, but it's happened a lot earlier. So this is just another occurrence of it. All right, we're going to stop there. We're out of time. So